Hello, friends, and welcome back to the All Bodies on Bikes podcast, Road Trip Edition. This is Marley Blonsky, your host, and I am coming to you from the Tygh Valley in, it's like western central Oregon. It is stunningly beautiful, and I am out here this weekend for Joyride, which is a women, trans, femme, non-binary event put on by Cycle Oregon. We have a really special podcast that we're bringing to you this week. It was a live podcast recording. We haven't done one of those in a long time. I believe it was last time we did one, we were in DC, interviewing the Metro WABA, the Washington area blind athletes. So if you haven't listened to that episode, it's a really fun episode. So take a listen to that one. But today I've got two very special guests that we kind of did a panel discussion, and then we took questions from the audience. So I really hope you enjoy this one. This road trip has been incredibly fun. I'm headed down to Steamboat Gravel next, where we will be recording an episode with the organizers of Steamboat Gravel and with the All Bodies on Bikes team. So with that, on with the show. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, awesome. So hello, my name is Marley Blonsky. I am the co-founder and executive director of All Bodies on Bikes. Has anybody here not heard of All Bodies on Bikes? Awesome. I would love to tell you about it. So All Bodies on Bikes is a group that it's technically a nonprofit now, that we started after a short film was made about me and my friend Kaylee Kornhauser. Basically, we call ourselves fat cyclists. We use fat as a neutral descriptor of our bodies, and we were sick of not having clothes and not having people to ride with because we kept getting left behind on group rides. And we realized we could do something about this. So we started All Bodies on Bikes, where we have 13 chapters across the nation. We lead, we lead social, inclusive group rides, and we also do a lot of advocacy and consulting with the bike industry, so letting them know people of all sizes and shapes and ages and genders ride bikes. We need clothing that works for us. We need equipment that works for us. And so we just do a lot of work around that. And then we also have a podcast where we tell stories that aren't typically told in the bike world. And on our podcast, we kind of came up with a fun little slogan. It's all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides are celebrated. And so on tonight's podcast, I'm going to be interviewing my friends Lisa and Kelsey, and we're going to be talking about art and activism and staying active as we get older and trail running and inclusion. And so I would love it if you all contributed to the conversation with those questions. They can be questions for Kelsey. They can be questions for Lisa. They can be questions for me about the organization. They can be questions about just about anything. So let me introduce our panelists. So Lisa Congdon right here is an internationally known artist and illustrator. She makes art for clients around the globe, including the Library of Congress, Target, Warby Parker, and REI, among many others, including numerous cycling brands and causes. Lisa's happy place is the sweet spot at the intersection between art, activism, and bikes. In 2021, she was named one of the 50 most inspiring people and companies, according to Industry Creatives, published by AdWeek. When she's not making, that's pretty cool. That's really cool, actually. When she's not making art, you can find her racing her bike around Oregon, mostly on gravel. She lives and works in Portland, Oregon, with her wife and her dog, Milkshake. Thanks for joining us, Lisa. And then Kelsey Long is a proud member of the Navajo Nation and currently lives on the Choctaw Reservation in southeast Oklahoma. We're basically neighbors. I live in Arkansas. She can be found on the trails running, but has recently been spending more time in the saddle. She started riding in 2017 and most recently completed her longest distance at Mid-South this past March. She's also the founder of We Run Long. So welcome to the show. Okay, so my first question. So I just read those incredible bios, but now I want to hear it from both of you. Who are you and what kind of work are you doing? Kelsey's up first.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am a cat mom. I am a community builder, a professional organizer, and I just really love being outdoors and being with the land. So I started endurance sports a while ago and really love spending time in and just being a part of this. I didn't grow up with being outside. I was an indoor kid. And so as an adult, I'm really enjoying just being out here and finding communities like this to be a part of.
Awesome. Thanks. What about you, Lisa?
Wow. Where do I begin? Well, mostly I spend my time drawing pictures, which is a really great way to make a living. I have a studio in Portland, Oregon, and a retail business both online and at a shop in Portland called Cargo. I have a space in there. And I also do a lot of, as Marley mentioned, brand collaborations and illustration work. I've also written and illustrated lots of books. And it's a really amazing way to make a living. And one of the things that I love most about the path that my career has taken just in the last few years is that I become more and more involved in making art for the cycling world. So everything from Marley's podcast artwork to posters for different cycling events. I just did a fundraising poster for People for Bikes, which is a bike advocacy organization in the US. And I also work for brands like Velocio and Smith Optics. I have some frames, cycling frames coming out in October. And it's really, as Marley mentioned in my bio, like that is sort of like combines, you know, two of my greatest loves, and also advocacy and activism. So those are sort of like pillars of my work. And I spend a lot of time making, you know, all kinds of work for all kinds of purposes, but my favorite work to make is any kind of work for any kind of cycling event or organization. I design the t-shirts that are for sale in the shop over here and the little pins, pronoun pins that many of you are wearing. And so I'm just super stoked to be here and to be part of this conversation tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. So we're here at Joyride. Did folks have a good day today? Wasn't that beautiful? Oh, my gosh. That descent into Maupin was incredible. I wish I could ride that all day, every day. But that's not how cycling works. And so, you know, we're out here at Joyride. Kelsey, you led a trail run yesterday. Lisa, I know you got into some gravel today. Can you tell us about your journey into both cycling and running? How did it begin? Were you always a cyclist? Talk to us about that. Let's have you go first, Kelsey.
Yeah. So growing up, I like I said, I was an indoor kid. I didn't want to be outside. I wanted to stay where it was nice and comfortable. But let's see, when I think it was 2015, I found a pup. And she was pretty incredible, but she kept tearing up the yard. So I had to get that energy out some way. So taking her for a walk, and I don't know if there are any runners out here, but the runners I know hate walking. You know, if we can run, we're going to run. So eventually we ended up running, and that led to kind of enjoying it and kind of wanting to do a little bit more. So entering races. And it just, from there, just longer distances, going. And around 2019, I was introduced to someone who kind of changed running for me, because after that, I wasn't running for myself. I wasn't running for times or medals. What I wanted to do was I wanted to use my running as a form of advocacy. I am a Navajo woman, and something that I didn't see at the time was representation. And so after I met Jordan Whetstone, she showed me how I could use my running as advocacy and empower others who look like me to take up space in trail running.
Awesome. Thank you. Lisa, how did you get into cycling?
I started cycling when I was 28 years old, and I'm a few months away from being 57, so it was a long time ago. So I signed up for what was at the time the California AIDS Ride. It's now a California AIDS Life Cycle. And I did that ride. And then for the next, I would say, 20 years, cycling was something that I did if I had something to train for. I ended up doing California AIDS Life Cycle again. And I would kind of ride in fits and starts. And I think part of that was because I hadn't yet found my people or my community. And fast forward to 2018, my wife and I had moved to Portland a few years earlier, and I wasn't riding a bike at all, and I really wanted to. And she went out and found this team called Sorella Forte, which is a women's team in Portland. So we both joined. I was sort of intimidated, which seems so silly to me now because it's such an inclusive club. But I was super intimidated to go and ended up having a blast and made friends. And so then after I joined that team, I was riding every Saturday, and then pandemic hit. And I realized that the only way to socialize with people was to ride bikes, because it was this kind of safe form of connection outside. And so a few of the gals that I had met on my team and I started riding together several days a week. And one of them was like, hey, you should get a gravel bike. And I was like, okay. And so I did. And then like 2 months later, I signed up for my first race, which is the Mudslinger gravel epic in Waldport. And then like a month later, I did Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder, which is a 5-day stage race, as my second race ever.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was pretty fit because I had been riding a lot, but I had no gravel skills whatsoever. But I had a blast. And it was actually at that 5-day stage race. And one of the things I love about gravel is that it is a place where you show up to an event or a race, and they use the mullet analogy, like business in the front, party in the back, right? So the elite racers, they start and they go, and everyone else just kind of like hangs out and gets to know each other and rides together. And I met so many amazing people because it was like adult summer camp, very hard type 2 adult summer camp, but it was like adult summer camp. And I ended up connecting with a bunch of people, including some professional racers, and made friends, and then just kept training on gravel and on road in Portland where I live. And and then within, a couple of years after that, I went to a gravel camp for the first time to actually learn some skills. It's a camp called Special Blend Gravel. That's run by my now coach, Serena Gordon, who lives in Bend. And I've been back to the camp like 4 times because I just learn more and more every time I go. So, I joined a cycling team when I was 50. By the time I was 52, I started racing. When I was, by the time I was 54, I hired a coach. About a year and a half ago, I signed my first sponsorship deal with Smith Optics, who's now also a client. And then last November, I won my first bike race. Not in my age group, but overall.
Wow.
So that's one fun fact. And I don't know that I will ever win a bike race again. But I'm also having knee replacement surgery this fall. And part of the reason I'm doing it now is because I love cycling so much, and I've talked to other people in this crowd who've had knee replacements, and you know, it's hard because you want to continue doing this thing that you love as you age, and I am so excited about, you know, I know I'm gonna have to take a couple months off, but I'm so excited about what the future holds for me, because cycling has really, and the community has really changed my life. So that's my story.
Love it. Thank you. That's great. I had no idea that that progression of things. So that's really cool. Kelsey, I'm so curious about We Run Long, and I want to learn more about it. So tell us, what is We Run Long, and what is the community all about?
Well, We Run Long is currently a nonprofit trail running group community that helps to empower Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It started as a team. Well, going back a little bit further, Rebecca and I are the co-founders of We Run Long. We were both on the social media team for Dirtbag Runners. It's on Instagram, so you should check that out. But we didn't see our people who looked like us represented on Dirtbag Runners. And so we looked. We followed, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color athletes to try and get them out there, but there was still not a whole lot. So we decided to do something about that. We formed a leadership team and became the running team Dirtbags Run. And when that started, we said that we would host an annual event with all expenses paid for our athletes. And our first and second year, we were able to offer 20 athletes a fun weekend plus an event. So we partnered with a racing company and a couple other businesses to help make that happen. And the first year, we were in Glen Rose, Texas, running the Dinosaur Valley Endurance Run. Our athletes competed 5 miles to attempting 100 miles in that weekend. Our second year, we were in Issaquah, Washington at Grand Ridge, where our athletes attempted or ran 25K to 50K, I believe. And that was amazing. And what we promise our athletes is to remove financial and safety barriers that they may have when coming into these spaces. So we meet monthly and we get to know each other. So when we actually meet for the first time at the events, we are friends. We're best friends. And we know exactly that there's no awkwardness that when you first meet someone. And so this year is our biggest year because we were able to be sponsored by Ultra Running, a shoe company, and Freestone Endurance. And so we're able to offer a camp for 30 athletes plus our instructors. We're bringing people into our spaces, Black, Indigenous, people of color teachers who have this knowledge and can share with our runners trail safety, running techniques, dancing. You know, we have all of this that we're going to be offering our athletes, and we're so excited about that. It's been an incredible journey to get to this place, and we can't wait to see where we go in the future.
That's so cool. How can people find out more about We Run Long in that camp? Are the athletes already selected?
Yes, we put out applications earlier this year, and we selected everyone by April, I believe. You know, we're getting into some tough distances, so we need to make sure everyone gets enough training time. But we are on Instagram at We Run Long, all one word.
Very cool, very cool. Well, you both have talked a little bit about inclusion, and you just shared an incredible story. But I'm curious, you know, if you've seen other instances of success in inclusion, and then specifically talking about cycling, and then where do you see work that still needs to be done in the inclusion sphere? Lisa, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'm working on a project right now with Dominique Powers, who is a pretty well-known cycling photographer. She's actually in France right now, or actually not in Holland. I'm about to start
Amsterdam for
filming photographing the Tour de France Femme that starts on Monday. But one of the things that, so this project, we chose like 13 women, including a couple of trans women and some non-binary folks who are leaders in the gravel space. And one of the things that she's photographing them, I'm interviewing them, and together we're sort of putting together a project. And I asked all 13 of these people, you know, what they feel like is missing in the cycling world. And while I think every person acknowledges that inclusion is at the forefront and is happening, we still have so far to go. There are still so few people of color at cycling races and events. The parity between men and women is still drastically, you know, there's just this huge divide. And part of why I appreciate this event so much is because we are just bringing together women and female-identified folks to talk about these issues and to spend time together. And it feels like a real, like, special, safe space. And I don't think there is enough of that either. So I really appreciate being here. So anyway, I'm learning a lot about what I think or what other people think is missing from this space. I'm super curious to hear what Kelsey has to say.
One of the things that we say at We Run Long is that we need explicit invitations. People of color, we need explicit invitations to enter spaces like this. And I say that because historically, people of color were not allowed to recreate freely. At some point, it was even a crime. So with that historical trauma that we carry, it's really hard to come to something like this without those explicit invitations. Saying everyone is welcome is not enough. And I also like to say that we don't need allies, we need accomplices.
Yeah. Can we dig into that a little bit? I would love to talk about the difference between allyship and being an accomplice, if you're open to digging into that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that when you're an accomplice, you're willing to participate and get into some of the good trouble, you know? So that's what it means to be an accomplice, is taking ownership of something that may negatively impact you, and being okay with that, and knowing that it's what you're doing is the right thing when you're helping people, Black, Indigenous people of color.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, shift gears, use a little bike pun, and go to some of the questions from the audience. There's a couple that relate to mental health, which is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I was recently diagnosed as bipolar 2, so taking care of my mental health is super, super important. But I would love to hear from both of you. How do you take care of your mental health, or what helps get you out the door when maybe you aren't feeling it, to go for a ride or to go for a run?
This has been a question that's been on my mind a lot lately. I am a postmenopausal woman who struggles a lot sometimes with motivation, and also feeling good in my body with all of the changes that are happening all at once. And I think for me, the thing that has really helped me, so cycling for me is like a huge source of mental health therapy, if you will. I can wake up in the morning and feel terrible and sort of force myself out the door and on my bike, and I inevitably feel better when I return from that bike ride. But I think what really helps me is having a community of people that I can ride with, so that I know that I'm not alone. And I feel so privileged that I have like friends that I can text or email who live in Portland, who I can say, you know, are you free this Saturday, or are you free this Friday? Do you want to ride together? And not everybody has that. And I think what we can do for each other, like one of the things I love about these events, and when I say these events, I mean bike races and bike events that, you know, that I go to, is that inevitably I make friends. And I'm not an extrovert, I'm actually an introvert, but like there's something about being on the bike and riding next to people that just connects you. And today I made some new friends. I rode with Julia, Jenny, and Teresa. And we all live in Portland. And I said to Teresa, like, we should ride together sometime. And like every month, my network of bike friends expands and gets more and more interesting and diverse. And I love that. And I think that, like, to the extent that we can reach out to each other and invite each other to ride bikes or to hang out, benefits all of us and helps build the community. So I think, you know, taking care of your own mental health is important, but you never know how you're going to change somebody's day, you know, by saying like, hey, do you want to ride bikes sometime together? So
That's so true. Yeah. So, Kelsey, anything to add?
Yeah, I think coming at it from the other side, because I tend to take on way too much. So allowing myself to rest is helpful to my mental health. And not beating myself up for missing a run, missing a ride, a workout, because I know that if I'm just so worn down, then what really will benefit me is taking that time and resting rather than pushing through and trying to you know, do what the workout says, or what my coach says.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So finding that balance between resting and listening to your coach. There's a reason I don't have a coach, because I don't want to listen to what a coach tells me what to do. So
yeah, I think it's super important. I had an experience this past week where, and I'm a Capricorn, so if Serena tells me to do something, I go do it. But every now and again, I'm just like, I cannot, you know, and I think sometimes she's more proud of me for telling her that I need to take the day off than she is when I go do something that clearly I'm too exhausted to do. So
I love that. So Lisa, one of the things, so we kind of prepped for the show. I said, what are a couple topics that you all want to talk about? And one of the things that you wanted to talk about was that it's never too late to start riding. So you often emphasize this, you know, that it's not too late to start riding or racing your bike. Can you share some personal experiences and stories? I mean, you already told us about winning and getting your sponsorship and that sort of thing. But can you share some other stories about coming into cycling as I don't know if older person is the right, as an older person.
yeah.
Oh, not the right word. I'm so sorry.
No,
she said, okay.
I'm fine with it, but
older than me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an elder Gen Xer. Yeah. You know, I think that as a Gen Xer, I grew up in a time when I was like, I think things are much different for many millennials and Gen Z folks, but I think for boomers and for Gen Xers, like, we came around in a time where, especially as women, we were constantly doubting ourselves and like, you know, if I don't have this body, I can't do this thing. If I don't look like that, I can't do this thing. If I didn't get on a bike and start working with a coach by the time I was 30, it was too late. And I thought all of those things. And in my early 50s, I had this sort of reckoning where I was like, why not me? I'm going to cry. So I feel super grateful because I somehow found the inspiration in watching other people too. Like, you come to this event, I mean, raise your hand if you're here and you're over 50. There's a fucking lot of us.
Yeah. For the radio listeners, the majority of the audience has their hands up right now, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And, you know, not everybody's racing a bike, but you're all here riding your bike. And today was hard, you know, and you're out there doing it. And that's just like, I feed on that inspiration from everyone. But, you know, especially when I see older women, postmenopausal women out doing hard things. It's so inspiring to me. And so anyways, when I just thought to myself at one point, like, why not me? Why not now? And I'm not going to wait around. It's, you know, like I got smart enough as I got into my 50s to know that it's not too late. Like, am I going to ride as fast as I might have if I had done this when I was 25? No. Am I going to, you know, I don't know, look the same as I might have when I was 25? No. But it's setting goals for myself and then going and working towards them is so personally satisfying to me. And it's never too late to continue to have goals. And by goals, I don't mean like going and winning a bike race like I did. I mean like just setting a goal to ride your bike twice a week with your friends, or, you know, to stay active. We are, I think as Gen Xers, like, we are this generation that is going to live very long. And like, because we are so active, and it's just super inspiring to me to see all of you out there and to be a voice in this space for, you know, I have a large social media following, and you would not believe how many people come up to me and say, it is because of you that I started riding a bike again, and or that I got on a bike, or that I bought a bike. And that means so much to me. And if I can be an example for aging and staying active and trying hard things like descending really fast on some gravel descent or whatever, like, I'm here for it. Like, I'm so into being like your 57-year-old badass. And I wasn't a badass when I was in my 30s or 40s, like, but I am now, and that's what matters. And it's not too late. So anyway.
I am so glad I asked you that question.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And honestly, so I'll be 38. Nope, I already turned 38. I'm 38. And I get inspired all the time by seeing women who are older than me still going out and continuing to take on new challenges. So thank you to each of you who are here taking on these challenges, because it's inspiring to me. And when I get to be your age, I want to still be doing this. And so that's what inspires me to keep taking care of myself. So both of you are incredible ambassadors for your sports. A lot of folks see you and want to be or are inspired by you and want to also become an ambassador or kind of an activist. What advice would you give to folks who would like to take on a similar leadership type role? Tough question.
Well, for me, what I did was I used what I had. In 2020, a lot was happening. I wanted to be on the front lines and go to the protests, go to the march with everyone. But that wasn't happening in my city. So I used my running, finding and connecting with organizations that were aligned with what I wanted to advocate for. And so running with their shirt, wearing those words across my chest when I went to a race. And starting this year, I am running every race with a running ribbon skirt. I don't know if you've seen those, but a ribbon skirt is something that is worn by Indigenous women. It is not traditional, but it is something that's very common for Indigenous women to wear. And they're usually long. I have tailored mine to be shorter so that I can run in it. and they're just decorated with beautiful ribbons. And for me, it shows everyone out on the course that I'm an Indigenous woman. So that is how I advocate for people like me in everyday spaces.
Yeah.
I love that. So I think the simplest answer, obviously, if you have social media, there's all these ways that you can be an ambassador for the sport. And you can probably imagine what all those things are. But if you're just like, I'm a regular person, what am I going to do? Be kind to the people that you ride with, and be welcoming to the people that you ride with, no matter who they are, no matter what they look like, no matter what size body they have, no matter how slow they're going. Be welcoming. That is what made the difference for me when I first joined Sorella. And that is what I know makes the difference for other people. If we want to create a space where everyone feels like they belong, we have to create inclusive spaces. And, obviously, we need to do work in that area, as Kelsey was saying, and that work needs to be very intentional. Kindness will only get us so far, obviously. But I think one thing we can all do is, if you belong to a cycling club or you ride with, people, when new people show up, be welcoming and be kind. Like, it's so simple, but that's what keeps people coming back. Be encouraging. Follow up with people. Because I know for me, and I know for probably most of you, it is the people we ride with that is part of what makes the experience of riding bikes joyful, just as much as like moving our bodies. Obviously sometimes we ride alone and all of that, but like it really is this community experience that makes it special. And I'm really like, that to me is like the most important thing, is just making people feel like they belong by just being kind and welcoming.
Yeah. It's amazing how far a kind word or a friendly smile at the beginning of a ride, especially if you're the new person on the group ride, it's amazing how far that tiny little gesture can go. So kind of on the same wavelength, Kelsey, I think this is a question for you from the audience, of how can existing groups become accomplices in the future or in the work they're doing now?
Well, what I really liked about Joyride is the intention they put behind inviting riders of color to this event, specifically reaching out to communities that they knew had people of color in riding bikes and inviting them out. That is an explicit invitation there, and that is being an accomplice, because offering those sorts of putting themselves out there like that, I don't know the background of it all, but what if there were negative consequences to that? They took a chance and they chose to invite people in. So whether it is something where your members may not like the decisions made, or taking a financial hit, those are things that make you an accomplice. Is you're willing to take those risks.
Thank you for elaborating on that a little bit, because I think it's a concept that everybody's heard of allyship, but it's that next level of being an accomplice, that I think folks need to know about. So thank you for digging into that. I'm going to answer a couple questions, and then kind of last call for questions from the audience. We're going to start wrapping things up here. So if you have any other questions, Rebecca is walking around with little slips of paper. Feel free to ask us fun things, ask us anything you want. So one of the easiest questions I got was, how can we support all bodies on bikes? Well, as your nonprofit executive director, we're always taking donations if you go to allbodiesonbikes.com. But just tell a friend. Share the podcast, like, subscribe, all of those things. The podcast is on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all of those things. And share it with a friend who could maybe use the message or encourage somebody else to get on a bicycle. So that's probably the easiest way. We also have merchandise. I'm in a van over there, and I've got hats and water bottles. So if you come find me afterwards, if you're interested, water bottles are $10. Come find me, and we can make that happen. And then another really interesting question was, how have bike apparel companies responded to All Bodies on Bikes? And it's a loaded topic. Raise your hand if you've ever had trouble finding bike clothing that fits. Yeah, a lot of us have. It's a very common experience to, if you wear a size medium normally, you go to a bike shop and you're suddenly in a triple XL and you've never been in a triple XL before and you're like, what changed? And it's been interesting. My first bike sponsor, or one of my first sponsors, was Pearl Izumi. And I was brought on with them with the idea that we would they would expand their bigger sizes. So they go up to a 3XL in some garments right now. And when I was brought on as an ambassador and as an athlete, the hope was that all of their apparel would come in bigger sizes. Pearl Izumi got sold. They underwent a leadership change. And as happens with these big companies, strategic direction changed. I said, I don't necessarily want to be affiliated with that company anymore. And so now I work with another brand called Shredly. Shredly is incredible. It's who I'm wearing right now. And they make everything in a size 00 through 24, which is pretty darn awesome. Lots of other apparel brands have reached out because they realize that we are a huge economic force. I think 74% of the U.S. lives in a bigger body. I don't like these words, obese or overweight, but that's how the CDC defines it. And so there's just a huge market. And so when I'm talking to these brands, I'm trying to make the business case for it, and a lot of them are starting to come around. It is a challenge because cycling is still rooted in European racing standards, and so that's what's used as kind of the model. But I think apparel companies and general bike companies are coming around and seeing that there's a lot more people than just skinny European men riding bikes right now. So, as evidenced by all of you, which is incredible. Yeah, please.
I was just going to say, I didn't get my sponsorship with Smith because I'm fast. I got it because I'm an advocate for getting more women into cycling, and that's something that brand supports. And so I think it's important to remember that we are the market now, and brands are starting to see that and respond to it, and it's really exciting.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just trying to read these questions that came in, but this is a great question for all three of us. What was your favorite part of today? So for the audience on the oh my gosh, on the radio, on the podcast, what are we doing right now? So we're at Joyride. There were 3 different rides today. Folks could do a 12-mile ride, a 35-mile ride, and then a gravel option. Which was 47. Was there also a long route today that did not involve gravel? No. Okay, so all of us did one of those 3. So what was your favorite part of today?
I think I alluded to this earlier, but my favorite part of today was making new friends and riding with people that I hadn't ridden with before. When my wife is here, we're sort of had different goals for the day. She wanted to do the medium, I wanted to do the gravel, the longer distance, and I was like, I don't know who I'm going to ride with. I didn't really know very many people who were going to be here, and I knew the people that I did know, I knew were going to do the shorter distances. And so I found out that Anique was going to lead a group of people doing gravel and do a little clinic at first. And at first I was like, well, I don't really need the clinic because, I know what I'm doing. And so I show up, and because I wanted to ride with people. And then turns out I learned a few things. I'm being facetious. I did really learn things, but sometimes we go into things thinking I don't really need to learn anything, and then we do. But really, more importantly, there was a group of 4 of us who were basically very compatible riding partners, and we ended up after the clinic was over, peeling off together and riding the rest of the day. And it was so much fun and so enjoyable. And just like made the whole day. I think I would have had fun if I were by myself, but it made the day even better. And I just really like now, and I think we're gonna ride together tomorrow too. So yeah, so it was really fun.
Oh, that's lovely. Kelsey, what was your favorite part of today?
Well, I did something really fun. I took the rafting option.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I started the main route and rode 16 miles into Maupin, and then jumped on a boat, raft, and I was there for a couple hours riding the rapids. And then I got back on my bike and rode about 10 more miles until I had the SAG pick me up. I am not, I'm totally fine with that. That is great. I'm proud of my body for doing that. I'm fine.
I love that. That's actually similar to mine. I rode the middle distance, and you know that climb coming out of the river? It was awful. And about a mile in, Steve drove by and said, "Hey." And I said, "Hey, you want to give us a ride?" And he did. So we got a ride the last mile up the hill, and I am not mad about it at all. So that was great, and it was exactly what we needed to happen, because we were hot, we were struggling at that point, and it made my day. And I think it's a really important lesson to listen to your body. And we have nothing to prove. We're not racing. We got nothing to prove to anybody. Yeah. So as we finish up, this will be kind of my last question for the team. Where can folks follow along with you and find you online? And then do you have any upcoming projects or collaborations that you're really excited about that you haven't told us about yet? Go for it, Kelsey.
All right, you can find me personally on Instagram at Kelsey, the nonprofit at We Run Long. And I'm really excited to go to a mountain bike festival in September. So I'm actually really excited because I'm going to be spending about 6 weeks in Colorado and Arizona just having adventures. So mountain bike, I'm going to Rome Fest, and then the week after that is the We Run Long camp, and those are both in Colorado. Then in October, I'm running my first 50K. So that's going to be in Chinle, Arizona, the Canyon de Chelly. It is on Navajo land, produced by a Navajo race director. And and then I'm going to close out the month crewing my best friend and co-founder, Rebecca, at Javelina.
That sounds like an incredible month coming up. What about you, Lisa? What do you have in the hopper, and where can folks find you?
Oh, okay. Everything is under my name. So lisacongdon.com. You can find my little shop inside of Cargo in Portland. If you live in Portland, Cargo is on Yam Hill near Water Ave. It's a big kind of shopping emporium. That's amazing. And you can find me on Instagram at Lisa Congdon. And what else? I think for me, I already told you about my frames with Smith Optics that come out in October. I also have a water bottle with Bivo that comes out in October, and I love Bivo. They're metal water bottles, not plastic, and they keep your water really cold or really warm if you ride in the winter. So I have a bottle that I illustrated that I think is released this fall at some point. But I love working with brands that make things that cyclists can use. It makes me really happy when I see stuff out on the road. So, and I'll be wearing my new frames tomorrow again if you want to check them out. So,
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, for following along. You can always find us online. And let's have a great day riding tomorrow.